Welcome to Toot Your Own Horn, Music Matters. Today I'm here with Drew Favreau. I am so excited to have you, Drew.
No, thanks so much for having me. Excited to talk to your audience.
Me too. I have known you for a very long time, and I really don't know your story. So would you tell it to us about how you chose your wind instrument and where it's taken
Sure.
you?
Sure. So, my interest in music goes way back even before I chose a wind instrument. So, my mother always believed that it was important for kids to play a musical instrument. And she knew the benefits that that would bring to other parts of my life. So, even before I picked my wind instrument, I took piano lessons at the local YMCA, starting doing my scales on a toy piano that she purchased at a local toy store called Child World at the time.
Mhm.
When it came time for me to pick a wind instrument, which was around third grade,
Yeah.
uh, my mother actually was very prescriptive in which instrument I would play. I originally was drawn to the oboe, but she felt that the reeds for the oboe would be too expensive. And so the closest similar instrument was the clarinet. And as it turns out, my original elementary school teacher, Patty Langer, she also played the clarinet. And so she helped me through beginning band and getting comfortable with the instrument until I eventually started private lessons with my middle school teacher, also a clarinetist and a graduate of the Hart School. And through my studies with him, got connected with the pre-college program at the Hart School, then the pre-college program at the Manhattan School of Music, and then on to a music degree at DePaul University, studying with musicians from the Chicago Symphony.
So before you go on, your mother decided that you were going to play the clarinet, and you just went, "Oh, okay, I'm going to do this for the rest of my life." Like, how did that work?
Well, I didn't do it decide, oh, I'm going to do it for the rest of my life, but music is something that brings all of us together. And so as I participated in band and then did special activities like All State, All New England, I made friends. And so building connections in music is something that's actually continued through my life, even professionally to this day. There are a few places in the United States that I can't go and not know somebody that I have made music with before.
Hmm. And so was that really what kept you doing it?
What kept me doing it was a combination of the friends that I made along the way, but more importantly, I just really enjoyed it. There's something very special about making music, creating something, getting better, feeling accomplished when you actually perform for other people and getting the audience response in the form of applause and kudos and, just being able to connect with people through music gives you a whole nother language that builds relationships musically that translate into the real world.
Hmm. And so you decided to be a music major because why? Because of all those things? Is what did you hope to do with it?
Well, I became a music major because it was something I was really good at in high school. I was inspired by the music that I was making. I was very fortunate to have amazing teachers. I was very passionate about all of the kids that I was making music with, and I really didn't want it to end. And so at that point in my life, given the exposure that I had to the arts at a very high level, my dream at that point in time was to play principal clarinet in a major symphony somewhere in the world.
And when did that change and why?
So when I was studying at DePaul University, I, for whatever reason, had an idea that I was supposed to take an internship my very first year, which, as most college graduates know, you don't typically do an internship until your junior or senior year. But it was fate that led me to decide that I needed to have that internship because that connected me with an internship in marketing at the Ravinia Festival outside of Chicago. At the Ravinia Festival, I met my long-term mentor, Jean Ulrich, who was then the director of marketing and PR. And she herself, a musician, ironically an oboist,
Mhm.
had played in symphony orchestras for about 20 years when she learned that she could be even more creative in a marketing profession than she could simply playing music in a symphony orchestra. And so she inspired me with her story and through her expertise gave me the opportunity to experiment with all of the different disciplines that make up the marketing profession. And that's how I made the transition from seeing myself only as a musician to seeing myself as a creative professional and now ultimately a professional marketer.
Mhm. And I remember you because you were in a class of mine, and I remember you working towards this outcome, and we've been friends for a long time. And I know how challenging that transition was because the world did not perceive your degree as necessarily as valuable as it was. And would you share a little bit about that?
Sure, that was a very difficult realization.
Yes.
One of the things that I think I was very fortunate at DePaul University where we met is that I was inspired not only by you, but other professionals in the program
Yeah.
who taught me the business side of music.
Mhm.
And that gave me exposure to a lot of other skills that I hadn't even thought of. And so when it came time for me to graduate, my degree ultimately was in music business. But even then, trying to get a job with a Bachelor of Music degree is very challenging. I was fortunate that as I progressed through the program, I was ultimately a professional intern throughout my college years.
Yeah.
And so that gave me some real world skills to be able to demonstrate my expertise in a variety of different marketing disciplines. But ultimately, it was very difficult to continue to grow in my career with just a Bachelor of Music. And so I went back to DePaul to earn an MBA and have recently gone back for a second master's to Northwestern University, where earned a second master's in integrated marketing communications.
Hmm. And what did your employers think, or do they think now of your background?
Every time I have a job interview, the individuals who I am interviewing with are inspired and are in awe of this whole other life that I have. And what's interesting is that there's a lot of studies that show that individuals who embrace and study music all throughout their life, it unlocks certain areas of their brain that make them insanely analytical, extremely creative. And so one of the I think the benefits of music that I really didn't know as a kid is that it would give me a whole nother outlet to strengthen and make connections in ways that not everybody who does not practice music or have music in their life have.
So why is it, you're not alone because, I've certainly had this challenge as well. I mean, people do not have a tremendous respect from a professional standpoint of people who have been in music or gotten music degrees. It's very difficult. Even though once you've achieved more, they look at you differently. And so I'm wondering what can you talk about that at all to help some of the people here who are listening who are like either torn by their career choices or trying to figure out how to incorporate music into their career without destroying their potential to earn money, I guess is
Well, I think, one of the hidden skills that being a musician has given me is the ability to quickly adapt to any situation. So when you're in music, you're playing with a variety of different ensembles under a variety of different conductors with ensembles that are of all different skill levels, which has been, my case. You need to learn how to adapt. And that's something that when you think about your approach to life as being able to adapt to any situation, when you take that to a professional setting,
Mhm.
that gives me gives me the skill set to quickly assess, hey, this is the situation we're in. Here are all the players on the team. Then it also gave me the ability to figure out, okay, well, how do I work across all these different players? But I think the question that you're really asking me is value, and how do you demonstrate value?
Right. How did you demonstrate value when did you have to get that degree? Because I know I remember very well that it was really, really hard for you to get those first opportunities. You went through a million interviews, and I know it was very, very scary for you because you really wanted it. And now, of course, it's very easy because you've been successful and you've had lots of positions. But that first step was way harder than it is for most people. And that's a problem because a lot of people, I mean, honestly, it's a problem because a lot of people don't go into music because of that thing. My dad didn't want me to because he's like, it's a disrespected industry. That he didn't quite say that, but that's kind of what it is, and you wind up, even though it's not, it's actually a very high level pursuit if you are smart enough to use it for its value.
hmm No, 100% agree. And I think it's twofold. Part of it is being able to talk about what you bring to the table, talk about your experience, and talk about music in terms of all of the benefits that brings to you as the individual that you bring to the table as a well-rounded individual. But part of it is also the hiring manager having general awareness, as is the case for many different employee populations and many different skill sets, about the value that someone who has a musical background brings to the table. And I'm hopeful that the viewers of this podcast will, be able to internalize, because even if they themselves don't come from a musical background, they'll learn a little bit more about what it's like to work with somebody who has that additional capability and what that enables them to deliver as someone on their team.
Yeah. Do you think that musicians in general, and do you think you had the communication skills initially to be able to express clearly what you could bring?
No, I think that's something that, like all of us, we learn through trial and error. And I think when you are deeply involved in music and when you are around different communities, and that's different ensembles, that's if you're touring and you're traveling with different ensembles, you take for granted that everybody's life is like this. Everybody has easy access to live music. Everybody is able to forge connections through music. And as I've gone through my career, both musically as well as professionally, I've learned that having easy access to live music or live performances is sometimes a luxury. And so people don't actually understand what it's like to be in a concert hall or be in a town green or be in a club where live music is performed, where once someone has experienced it, they get the connection that happens with the artist. They see the critical thinking that's happening on stage. And so over time, I've learned different ways to describe that in a professional setting to be able to showcase the benefits of what some would consider just a hobby, I would consider a way of life.
Mhm. You've always been very communicative, and so it's funny to hear you say that you didn't think you were good enough at the time that you were your first jobs in communicating, right? Because you've always been a very good communicator, and yet I think that musicians overall, because of the nonverbal skill building, are often suppressed and don't have the ability to clearly articulate their needs, wants, or their troubles because it's something that isn't used as frequently as the art of blowing into the conversation. You know what I'm saying? Meaning they create conversation in a nonverbal way.
Well, and I also think that many of the musicians who are in my life are very humble. And so bragging is not something that they do. And they also take for granted that some of the skills that they have intrinsically are something that everybody has. And over time, I've learned that that's not the case. Doesn't mean that they aren't skills that can't be developed. And that's one of the reasons why music is a lifelong pursuit. But I think it's really important that as you meet people who, at least as I have met people who are not musical or who do not have a musical background, being able to let them in on my experience and what it's done for me and how it's transformed my life and how it's enabled me to connect and see situations differently has helped them see the value in not only musicians and music in general as a profession, but also see additional value in individuals who bring that talent and expertise to the table.
Mhm. I think that because music has so many soft skills inherently as part of it, that when you can combine it with, tangible skill and connect the dots between them is where the real value comes from.
I would agree.
Yeah. So what was your first job? What job did you get?
So my very first job, would you like after I was a professional intern, or so the first full-fledged job?
So tell us about your internships. We go through the internships and then give us the real job.
All right, I'll give you the highlights of the fast highlights of the years when I was a professional intern. I started my internships in marketing, and so I had a couple summers in consultancy with the Ravinia Festival. I had a couple summers in the press office at Lincoln Center, also hired as a consultant. And then I decided to try a couple different organizations on for size. So I worked for the Mayor's Office of Special Events in the city of Chicago, and then also worked for a nonprofit focused on growing business in Chicago, the Chicagoland Chamber of Commerce, before I landed my internship at Edelman, one of the world's largest PR agencies. And ironically, what helped me land that job was the fact that I understood a client of the Chicagoland Chamber who had a very technical product that was incubated at university in the greater Chicagoland area. And one of the things that I found throughout my entire career is that I've always been aligned with businesses and tech or some sort of industry that have a technical element. And so I think because of my musicality and how I've been able to exercise different parts of my brain through music, I found it very easy to explain highly technical things in a very simple and straightforward way to a variety of different audiences. And so I run, oh,
Keep
go
going.
ahead.
No, go ahead.
So interestingly enough, my first full-time job was actually with Edelman, the PR agency, working in B2B and technology marketing.
Hmm. And did you know when you were in high school, were you just like a great math student? Did you know that you had a technical bent? Is there any clue that you had that skill or ability?
No, no. Anything that was technically related was not something that I gravitated towards. And I always thought that I wanted to have a career in entertainment marketing, and those jobs are very difficult to get and they're few and far between. And so just fate steered me in the direction of more technical companies and landing, in a career in technology. And it just happened to be something that I was naturally very good at. And I didn't really understand why that was at the time because, as you mentioned, I always have a very good communication skill set. And at that point, I had a solid basic understanding of the marketing mix. But being able to speak technically and learn very quickly about the technology and then be able to reinterpret it was something that just happened naturally for me. And I clearly believe that that's linked to all the time spent developing my musical ability.
Well, I don't know that that's true because I spent an awful lot of time developing my musical ability and I am not very good at technical things. So I think that's a Drew thing. Give me a real it's, it's something that was hidden and you didn't know and then the rest of it really helps, of course. I mean, right? And so then what? Then Edelman, you were at Edelman for how long?
So I was at Edelman for about 6 years, and then I moved on to Boeing, where I rotated through a variety of jobs in communications and brand marketing, and that ultimately landed me the role that I have today, which is the integrated marketing campaign lead for AI business solutions. So everything at the forefront of AI that with Microsoft.
That's awesome. And you've played the clarinet the whole way.
I have. I've been very fortunate that music is something that has stayed with me as a constant throughout, my entire life. When I first graduated with a music degree, I wasn't quite sure where I was going to find a creative outlet, and that creative outlet came through the form of a variety of different community bands and making music in chamber settings with other friends who had graduated. And over time, I've been very fortunate to be in situations where I've been invited to perform in a variety of different venues with different ensembles. And to this day, I'm a very proud member of the Tacoma Concert Band in Tacoma, Washington, where I get to play with other musicians who come from a very similar background, people who studied music academically, professionally, and then also music educators. And so the caliber of music that I'm able to participate in is at a very high level because at some point in time, we all grow up, but we've kept music with us and we all landed together in that ensemble.
That's fantastic. And you also have an incredible eye for decorating because I've seen what you and Kemplin have done, and your house is amazing. So you've also had really fun doing that, I can tell.
I did mention that brand marketing was one of those jobs.
Without a doubt. So, Drew, if somebody was listening to this and really just loving your story, what would you tell them to choose to play a wind instrument?
So one of the things that I would tell them in choosing to play a wind instrument is one, try different wind instruments. I think one of the things that is often overlooked is most symphony orchestras and many bands have instrument petting zooms. And so it gives you a really non-threatening, easy way to just pick up the instrument and try it. I myself have tried a variety of different woodwind instruments. I definitely found that clarinet was the right decision. And then also play a little bit of saxophone. But in experimenting in the brass section, I found brass is not for me. And, fortunately, as I was playing through both the wind and brass sections, there were either friends' instruments or, in situations like an instrument petting zoo where I just got to experiment. I think one of the things that's most exciting about choosing a wind instrument is the art of discovery and just trying different things out and doing something different. And based upon just putting yourself in a situation that is low stress, non-threatening with people who you are comfortable with, because all of us don't want to do, many of us have difficulty doing things that are new. Certainly doing something new in a situation we perceive as either high stakes or people you want to impress. And so put yourself in a situation where you can be uncomfortable and you can go on your own journey of self-discovery. And that could even start even before you pick up the instrument by listening to a variety of amazing soloists and seeing which sound you gravitate towards. I think one of the reasons why I stuck with the clarinet is there's something about the tone of the clarinet, and the acoustical twin in the string family would be the cello, that just resonates with me. There's something very calming that happens to me when I play the clarinet and when I listen to other amazing artists of all different musical genres play the instrument.
That's very different than being a technical. What did you say? You're an AI lead for market registration and Microsoft. Is that what you said?
Yeah. So AI Business Solutions, Microsoft, campaign lead, Americas.
And what does that look like? What's the gist of that?
So the gist of that is I get to inspire people to figure out how to incorporate AI into their business, to help them create a better employee experience, to help them create better customer outcomes, to reimagine how their organization shows up in the world through AI. And so it's really about providing access to inspiring examples, new ideas, and new thoughts to help them achieve what they would like to.
So unlike any other job you have, it sounds like you actually get some bandwidth to innovate because you get to find solutions as opposed to being given them.
Yes. And a lot of inspiration actually comes from the customer examples. It's amazing what happens when you provide a toolkit and you see how many different ways that toolkit can be put together.
That's great. Drew, I am so proud of you. You have done just such great work, and it's hard to believe you were my student once. It just blows me away. That's amazing to me. So, you keep playing the clarinet. I hope I get to see you. I'll be in. I'm coming again to the clarinet thing.
Oh, well, let me know when you're in town. I can't wait to see you in person again.
For sure. Enjoy. Take care. I will say my prayers for your family.
Oh, thank you so much.